Can you believe it's been 10 years since JW Broadcasting began? That's 120 monthly programs. These programs have unified and strengthened Jehovah's organization. In the next video, we will be reminded of some gems we've received, and we'll hear personal stories that illustrate the impact JW Broadcasting has had on the Brotherhood.
We warmly welcome you, dear brothers and sisters, for our first JW Broadcasting monthly program.
Christian neutrality.
Modesty.
Do the math.
Deal with anxiety one day at a time.
Children are an inheritance from Jehovah.
Jehovah loves each one of us, despite our appearances, our imperfections.
A marriage that has good patterns, shaped by Jehovah's principles, looks like this well-balanced family circle.
Though we're tainted with sin, Jehovah does not discard imperfect humans.
Dear brothers and sisters, please be assured of the warm love of the governing body and our prayers in your behalf. From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.
What program was special to you? Do you remember one? We encourage you to re-watch the spiritual food that's been presented in past programs. And we thank Jehovah for making all this possible.
So yes, we're marking 10 years of JW Broadcasting, and to help us do that, Troy Snyder has presented us there with a montage of clips going back over the years, including the infamous Ken Flodine bread episode.
Though we're tainted with sin, Jehovah does not discard imperfect humans.
I'm honestly amazed that that made the cut, because that was arguably the most outrageous episode I think I've seen on JW Broadcasting. Ken Flodine just gave this incredibly self-indulgent speech using bread and talking about how people can be tainted.
We sadden him. We grieve the Spirit. So what should we do? Stop our inappropriate behavior and pray for forgiveness. And we must shake off any remnants of such traits from our person. Though we're still imperfect, we can again have a wholesome relationship with Jehovah.
It was just absurd. So for them to be alluding to that as part of their best of montage was just incredible. Speaking for myself, I'm actually quite emotional about it, to be honest, because when that first episode went out, October 2014, hosted by Stephen Lett, that was a formative moment for my YouTube channel. I had a very small channel at the time, and I was more of a blogger, really. I was more following events and developments with the organization in writing, and JW Broadcasting really was the starting gun for just this avalanche of video propaganda that really became what my channel was all about, answering and doing rebuttals to just this onslaught of manipulation, quite frankly. So it completely, I would say, changed my life, to be honest. I don't think this channel would be as popular as it is now if not for JW Broadcasting. And this is really a great opportunity to just take stock and look back at that first rebuttal that I ever did, in which I made some quite bold predictions as to where this whole JW Broadcasting adventure would lead. I think that the net result of this big JW Broadcasting adventure, apart from the fact that it just appears cheap and tacky, and what's with all this JW logo everywhere, how is this not idolatry according to Watchtower's own rules? Apart from all of that, it just cheapens the whole thing. It's allowing witnesses to glimpse behind the curtain, not fully behind the curtain, but the more you show witnesses of the organization, the more you risk them waking up, because the more you show that these are just ordinary guys and they are not worthy of all of the adulation that they receive. So I was pretty confident 10 years ago that JW Broadcasting would lead to people waking up, would lead to people seeing the man behind the curtain, seeing how vain and pompous and full of themselves the governing body members really are. And I think I'm right, to be honest. I do feel as though this has been a cause for many people to just take a step back and think, are these men really worthy of my respect and devotion? Of course, if you listen to what Troy Snyder was saying earlier, he said these programs have unified and strengthened Jehovah's organization.
These programs have unified and strengthened Jehovah's organization.
Well, I guess that's quite a vague, untestable claim to make, really. What I'm actually interested in are the figures. What do the statistics say when it comes to the growth of Jehovah's Witnesses as an organization before and after JW Broadcasting?
Do the math. Do the math.
Now, at this precise moment, as I'm filming this, we don't yet have the 2024 service year figures. So I'm limited to 9 years of figures after the first JW Broadcasting episode went out. So I thought it would be interesting to compare the 9 years after JW Broadcasting with the 9 years before. And here you can see the figures going all the way back to 2006, when there were nearly 6.5 million Jehovah's Witnesses. By 2014, that figure had risen to 7.9 million Jehovah's Witnesses, which is a 21% increase in Jehovah's Witnesses in the 9 years leading up to JW Broadcasting. So what about the 9 years after? Well, again, using the organization's own data, we can see that as of the 2015 service year report, which was the first service year report after JW Broadcasting went out, the organization was at very nearly 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses, average publishers worldwide. And as of 2023, the number had risen to 8.6 million Jehovah's Witnesses, which is a percentage increase of 8%. So the growth of the organization dramatically slowed down after the first JW Broadcasting episode went out and subsequent episodes. If you're in a motorboat that's moving at 21 knots, you're powering along at an incredibly fast rate, and your captain says, you know what, I'm going to stop and I'm going to make some modifications because I think we can get more out of this engine. So he makes his modifications, restarts the engine, fires up perfectly. You start moving forward again, but you notice you're only moving at 8 knots. You're going to say, I'm not quite sure this is an improvement. We're still moving ahead. We're still increasing, but quite a lot more slowly than we were before. So I would actually disagree with Troy Snyder's positive assessment. I don't think the organization has seen an improvement due to these episodes. If anything, it is giving people more of a reason to wake up and realize that their time is being wasted. Basically, JW Broadcasting is a huge vanity project. It's something the governing body started doing because they wanted to put themselves front center and be more noticeable and be more prominent in front of Jehovah's Witnesses. And because it's a vanity project, because it's all about their egos, they are never going to correct course and realize that perhaps this is actually a net negative for the organization. I also found it interesting when Troy Snyder said,
we encourage you to rewatch the spiritual food that's been presented in past programs.
Yes, rewatch the spiritual food. It's still good. Just bang it in the microwave. No matter how long ago it was made, It's still spiritual food, and it's still going to nourish you. Just one small problem: unless you download all of the episodes, you can't actually now rewatch every single episode, because at least one of them has been deleted. And I need to thank Arthur on the JW Watch team for doing the digging on this. There is one episode, the January 2015 episode, which was about higher education, that is no longer on the website. You cannot rewatch it unless you downloaded the original.
Young people, ask yourself, why am I considering additional education? Is it because I'm pursuing a specific skill or trade to support my service to Jehovah? Or have I been pressured by the system into believing that higher education will somehow make me a more respected person or lead me to a better life? It is one thing to work on a job with others, and quite another matter to immerse oneself in an institution of learning.
It's hosted by Tony Morris, which is probably the reason why it's been deleted. I mean, there are other episodes that Tony Morris hosts that are still on jw.org. In fact, all of the other episodes, as of now, are still on jw.org. But for whatever reason, the organization doesn't want Jehovah's Witnesses watching that particular one. And I found it interesting that in their montage celebrating the 10 years of JW Broadcasting, you don't see Tony Morris's face once. They are clearly embarrassed about him. And when Troy Snyder says that Jehovah's Witnesses should go back and rewatch episodes, he's being a little bit shady here, because it's literally something that Jehovah's Witnesses are now unable to do.